Welcome back to the table, everyone. Here we're going to do scenario 2 one more time from Band of Brothers Screaming Eagle. I will go over the differences in the setup this time and go over a couple rules clarifications that were brought to my attention. First, let's talk about the rules clarifications. A wonderful gentleman sent me a post linking a couple videos he has over on Board Game Geek. So if you go to Board Game Geek, look up Screaming Eagles. He's got a couple of tutorial scenarios that I think were filmed prior to the version 2 rules, but like they work brilliantly as a good primer. And I know I made a mistake with the routing. I read it in the rules, but when you play, it's easy for Eddie to forget things. One of those things is if you are in melee and it comes to the rout phase and you've got a wounded person and they're heavily suppressed, and I know I did that a couple times. I heavily suppressed and then just ran into the hex. If that person fails the rout roll, or even if you fail it by a little bit, if you fail the rout roll and all that's in here is enemy soldiers, and that unit has to rout out at least one hex away, they're still going to be destroyed, because that moving one hex away puts them adjacent. So if you fail a rout roll in melee and there's no other friendly units with you, you get destroyed. That's pretty harsh. I forgot where I pulled him from for demonstrations there. So that was probably the biggest thing, because I did have quite a few routes that I had won. Now I know I took them out for different reasons, because they still failed their route and they got eliminated, but they should have ended there. And as I play along, I know there was a couple other things that I probably got wrong, but that was like the biggest one that stood out to me. So with that in mind, we'll still find mistakes that I make, because that's just the way I roll. Then what I did to change the scenario was I went ahead and got rid of 3 of the second line defenders and picked up 2 first line defenders, and they're put right up here in the front. So they are 5-3 units. So they've got better stats than their lowly brethren back there. Also, the suggestion came, Itinerant Hobbyist said that there is a Poopville scenario in Advanced Squad Leader, and I don't know if I haven't seen it, so I don't know if it has like the same kind of look and layout. But he said just stick all the defenders in the front, because putting them back, I thought to myself like layer and defense, defense and layer, and as the Americans pushed forward, they would find defense every time they went forward. However, it didn't work out that way. The Americans just kind of steamrolled across. This way, they'll have a little bit of protection behind the hedge until they cross, and they have to cross the open. But all the defenders are here to just shoot straight across if need be, even straight up the middle here. So we'll see how that goes. I'll have to really put a lot of emphasis. I guess I can move these guys up here. Don't need them in the back there. But I'm going to have to put a lot of emphasis on laying down some suppression fire, so that as people move forward, hopefully they're suppressed and keep their heads down. So I think this will make for a much more interesting scenario. And otherwise, I think I got the gist of it down. Just trying to remember all the modifiers that I need. Oh, that was one that I do recall now that I can do a little differently. When you do your let's say opportunity fire, and you're going off of this proficiency skill, there are 3 things you can check that you can add if you qualify for all. So if you're opportunity firing at an adjacent unit, you get +1 to your proficiency fire. If you're op firing while marked as op fire, there's another +1. And then if you spend any command points, which I didn't have, but let's say you made all 3 of those, you could add 3 to this value. However, after adding your 3 to that value, you still can't go over the initial proficiency value from just those modifiers. If any other positive modifiers would apply, such as I believe you would then add the +3 for adjacent, at that point you could go over. So you might cap out at 5 based on those first 3 proficiency modifiers, but then all the other modifiers kick in and you could end up doing some damage even on opportunity fire. So I think that was the other big thing I messed up on. Okay, that's how I interpreted it. I still could be wrong, but I'm going to go with it that way this time and see what happens. Because I think what I did before was I just simply capped whatever they got. I mean, they had a ways to go, but I think I was still capping them at that 4 proficiency when maybe they should have gone higher. So we'll see. This might make the Germans a little more deadly. This could be a different outcome for the American player, and we're just going to get right into it. Now, Americans go first, and we're still doing 2 to 5 activations. Then the German player will go. They'll do 3 to 4 activations, and we're going to open up with our good friend weapon team. 8 firepower, and they're in a wood building, so that's -1 to the firepower. Not adjacent or anything like that. So they are hitting on 7s. I did change out the dice roller. I think this will be easier to move on. Plus you can see through it a little bit. And I was just really unhappy with the way the dice tower was catching the dice, and I was always ending up with like 0s, 8s, and 9s. So I'm hoping I can just do like that. Whoa! It's already made a difference. So that is 5 below. Yeah, so when, you know what? If I take 4 plus 2, that is 6. That's under the modified 7 that they became. I believe, and I could just be excited, and maybe there's a modifier I forgot about, but you know what? I don't care. That's like, dude, exactly what I wanted. So they took a reduction and are fully suppressed. That weapon team made Swiss cheese out of that building. That's the kind of start I wanted. Then, what I want to do, I can't really lay into anybody with those guys. Like, I was going to maybe put in some fire here. You know what? It's not touching the tree. It's not touching the tree, I don't think. I mean, if I move it, but if I try to get it, it's like barely. I tell you what, it is barely hitting that tree, and depending on how you line the hexes up, because the 2 map boards aren't entirely aligned. Let's see if I try to line those hexes up. Okay, then it cuts through the tree. Yeah, if I try to line and make solid hexes out of the misalignment of the map, oh, it's so close. So here's what I do. Good friend, die 4. 1 or 2, it hits the tree, because trust me, I would have friends that would argue that. So 1 or 2, it hits the tree. 3 or 4, it's a valid shot. Boom, it's a 1. It is not a valid shot. All right, so what we'll do is we're going to have them move up here so they can do assault fire. But it's one at a time, right? So one guy goes, and he says, gosh, I got so many Americans in the hedge in front of me. Do I want to take an opportunity fire? That's the only problem playing solo is, do we? Well, we're going to do the same thing. I think a 1 in 3 chance, because he is intelligent. He sees all of these guys here. He should be waiting, but he will wait. You know what? He will. This guy can deal with those folks. They can deal with it. So he moves up, and now he's got to decide, do we opportunity fire? Because he doesn't know who else is coming. So I'm gonna 50-50 that one. So 1 or 2 he op fires, 3, 4 he does not. 3, 4 he does not op fire, because he doesn't know the pain that's coming. So they move up, they're going to assault fire. The only reason why is because I want to suppress this flank a little bit so that this guy can move up and try to take this spot. This is actually working out very well so far. So let's see what we can do here. Oh, I didn't roll to see if he activates. I did forget that. He's got to roll a 9 or less to even activate. He rolls a 4. So I did remember that. Yay. I'm getting better at that. And they're not going to opportunity fire. So he's going to shoot with his proficiency of 5. He's going to subtract 1 for the building. No positive modifiers. that I'm aware of. So he's going to hit on a 4 or less. And it is a 9. Okay, well, I'm okay with that. This guy is going to try and activate. So he activates on a 9, which he does. And he does the same thing. He moves up. Now, he's going to op fire because there are 2 units here. And if he hits, he actually is going to hit both. So that could be to his advantage. But you know what? With only 1, he's going to hold off. Gosh, it's just that that 1 is such a low score to work with that it's very, very scary. I mean, it's possible to roll a 1, but just the odds are very unlikely. All right, so he's going to shoot, but same thing. He's hitting with that 5 proficiency, -1 for the wood building. So he's going to hit on a 4. And he rolls a 7. So they both fail to suppress that. I've used up 3. So what we'll do then, again, just to make it maybe a little safer to get someone across the street, so we've used 3. He's going to fire here. So they have 6. They're going to subtract 1 for the wood building, so it should be hitting on a 5. Negative 9. Well, that ain't working out the way I want. I think it's rolling better, but just not quite to my favor. So we're going to try 1 more suppression. Now, to my knowledge, with my knowledge of hedges, since it's kind of along that line, I believe that hedge completely blocks. So he can't shoot there. He could shoot here, but he can shoot here. So this guy will shoot down here. And the reason why, even if I just put a yellow suppression on there, that means there's a 5. They would have to roll a 5 or less if they wanted to op fire at anybody trying to cross into this spot. So we're going to try and do it. But again, there's 6 in a wood building, so they're going to be hitting on a 5. And they hit. So they're going to go to suppressed a little bit, and they go to used. Okay, there's 5. So now the German player has to decide what to do. And they get 3 to 4 activations. First, they're going to go from here into that stack of trees. Trees are, well, woods. A tree is -1 on the infantry firepower. So already he's going to be rolling a 3 or less, it looks like. There's no adjacent or anything like that. So they're just hitting on a 3. And if he hits, he's going to hit both. And he rolls a 2. And he hits both. Now, the only drawback to that is, as you may have guessed, he's got no way to push that. So they're suppressed, but that's going to come off. I could see where I probably needed a second German unit here, for sure. See that down here, if they come across, they can back each other up. Here, he's kind of all alone. So I wanted to leave this center open because I thought he would be good. But you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to end up, I think, shifting him down here so that they can support each other. Because in order to get through this gauntlet here, they're going to have to take out both of these. So I think I'll end up moving him. Alright, but he gets marked with a used. So that's the first German unit. Then we go here. 1. And I would check for line of sight, but I'm pretty sure he's going to be fine. Yeah. The buildings block it. 2, 3, 4. So he's going to move there. Now, I'm assuming he can... I didn't see anything on assault move that said you would have to like only move half your movement or anything like that. So I could be wrong. But again, their proficiency is really bad. So he's going to assault fire, but he's going to have to roll a 1. He's going to have to roll less than that because they're in woods. That means he's got to roll a 1 if he wants to put further suppression on them. Oh wait, I got to roll the black die because that's the German dice. I know, that's like 2 chance. Okay, now I'm nervous again. 6. Alright, we're okay for the Americans, so he gets used. But now his buddy they're backed up and can maybe pin them into that tree. So that's 2. Then he could do some. I think those two will hold on. I have to activate a minimum of 3, so we'll do this one here. He's going to shoot straight across, and the hedges, I believe, are also only, well, hedges give 2. Yeah, I think that counts as 2 protection for him. Like, he can shoot through it, but if I remember though, if he's back 1, then it blocks line of sight. But if it's up here, they're in the hedge, and they're going to get protected by -2 firepower. So that brings their firepower down to 2. Don't grab the blue one, grab this one. Okay, you need a 2, and you get a 4. Well, okay, that's the 3. They try to do a little suppression on their own. Okay, so we're back to the Americans, and now we got a big, I think this will be a very pivotal push to move up. We're going to move him. He can actually move here. 1, 2, 3. Because he would be in the open each time he moves against this guy. Now this guy still could try to shoot at every step of the way because he can see. He would just have to activate. And same with them. They can only do final opportunity fire 1 hex away. So unless I'm not using caps again. That was something else I'm not using caps again until I feel more comfortable with the rules and can fidget out how I'd want to do that in a single player. Alright, so what we're going to do is go 1, 2, and he's got to check if he can op fire. He's going to, you know what, I think I can actually move out in the open here. Check this out. If I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the rules say you're not supposed to check line of sight until you declare fire, but I'm trying to help the robot player out. And I think that's going to be cutting through the woods there in that building, so they can't there. He could here, but see, he's used, so he can't op fire unless I move adjacent to him, and then it's final opportunity fire. So I believe I can actually safely move in here, except this guy is going to check for final opportunity fire, and he's going to be able to opportunity fire if he rolls a 1 on his morale. And he rolls a 10. So the American Airborne unit pops in. Let me tell you, this is going so much differently than the first time I played this. I set it up a little bit and did just a few rounds, and the Americans were really struggling. Here the dice have been very favorable for them. Not going to be upset, I'm just saying we're already off to a different experience. Alright, so we're going to go used. The German unit technically isn't used because they, well, if you check, I think you get used if you choose to do something. So we'll just, either way, they can't do anything. They got pretty suppressed, and there's dudes in here now. They can't shoot out or anything like that. So that's 1 American unit, and I could go ahead and let's see. I don't think they can shoot because it got hexes, and I guess that's, I guess that'd be debatable if that's along the hedge. It's cutting through the artwork right there, I think, so he can't. But what we could do is try to get 1 more suppression here, but I think that's cutting through the hedge, we already said. So we could assault it, or I could just run across and reinforce there and then assault fire up. I think that's what we'll do. So I'm going to go 1. Now he's moving in the open within 4. He's going to try an opportunity fire. That does seem like a good juicy target. What does he need to hit though before I reveal the die? He has to check to see if he even activates. So this is the roll to see if he activates. He rolled a 3, so he activates. Okay, so what does he need to hit? So first we start with the proficient firepower. We are not adjacent. They're not marked with op fire and no command point. So they're going to start with a 3. They are moving in the open within 4 hexes, so we add 4 to that. So I believe that actually makes that a 7. Yeah. Good job. That might not have been the most smart choice. I tried to suppress them for that very reason. I didn't do a very good job. Alright, well, let's see what happens here. So we're going to roll. I need a 7 or less to put some suppression on them out in the open like that. And we roll a 7. Okay, well, that does put suppression on them, but now I got to make a morale check to see if that actually does stop them. And now he does get used because that was an action. And we're rolling the 6 or less to keep moving. And I roll 4. So they continue in. And no one else is able to shoot at them right now. So that's going to put 2. I'll put the suppression back on them here in a second. I might have to get the old tweezers. I found my tweezers the other day, and I don't know if that will be helpful at all as I get to the smaller counters. Okay, so in there, that's two of the airborne units. I can activate my last couple here. I was thinking of moving up. I don't want to be in the open, but I could move up, and since they're used, they won't be able to opportunity fire. So I was thinking about just crossing and then assault fire up. And then if I could suppress them more, then I could run this unit in. Yeah, but then he can get fire from there, but I think we would risk it. So what I'll probably do is risk coming out here, and he is going to op fire because he's trying to protect his buddy. Alright, so he's going to, since op fire, he's going to use his 1 to start with. They're moving in the open within 4 hexes, so that is +4. I might be forgetting a modifier right now, but that puts us at 5 in order to hit. And they roll a 10, so 10 is a failure no matter what. You could have +20 and a 10 is a failure. Okay, and then they're going to opt for it. Now I could move up 1 more to get the adjacent fire bonus, but then if they survive their, if they pass their morale check, they would get all those bonuses in return. So I don't want to do that. I'm going to see if we can just move up a little bit and then lay fire into them. So we're going to start with a 5, and they're in a building, so that's -1. So they're going to hit on a 4. So I got to roll a 4, and they roll a 2, and that's what I wanted to do, was put the red suppression on them, and they get marked used. So they just moved up just enough. They're out of cover now, and they're in the open. And then the last unit then would move. I think I got all the Germans to fire. So he's going to move. Now I'm not, yeah, I could safely move here only because the German unit here is preoccupied with his close combat in the building. So the German defender is going to try and roll a 1 to see if they will activate to do final opportunity fire, which they do not. And so I will hop this unit in here with them, and they will all be marked used. And I believe that is mostly legal. I was just so excited to hop back and play, and now I'm playing, that I very well could be making some simple mistakes on remembering which modifiers, but I think that's the gist of it. And I will say, the American player is pushing ahead a lot better than they were in my little demo I was running to see if that would be a good layout for the Germans. I had to drink some water. Okay, so now we got to do route. And that's where I made some boo-boos before. So let me make sure I got the route phase up. So we're going to check for routing if they're in the same hex as an enemy unit. Why, yes. Yes, they are. So first, the American unit here, we'll start with this hex here. They're going to pass their route because they have a morale of 10. So they're good. Same here wait a minute, I thought one of these guys was suppressed. And yeah, he is. This guy is suppressed. So what we'll do is we got to check for him first. See, so because the Americans went first, they have to check all their routes first. That was the other thing I did with the routes too, was I said route can beget a route in another situation, but it says you check for the route situation one time at the start of the route phase for that side, and then that's what you go with. So if that ends up with a wonky situation later, you don't start the route over, you just check it the one time for that spot. So right here for this person, I'm going to roll a 6 or less to stay in there. And they roll an 8. Okay, so they're going to fall back. Now, they don't get eliminated because there is a friendly unit in there with them. So they fall back. It says they got to fall back 1 towards cover, at least be able to fall back 1. There's no cover here, so they're going to continue falling back. I could fall back here with this weapon team, and that's provides all-around cover, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to fall back with the weapon team, and they're all used from previous whatevers. And I believe that would be legitimate. All right, then we check here, and that American unit is good. Then it's the German player's turn to check for routing. So we're going to have a route situation here because they are suppressed and they're in the same hex as an enemy. So they're going to roll. Get that. If he rolls a 1, he will stay. And he fails. Because he's the only unit there, then he is going to be eliminated. And I do hope that I learned that correctly. That was the impression I got from the demo. I hope that's right. And then we're going to check here as well. He's fully suppressed. So they're going to check, and if they roll a 1, they're staying. Nope. This is not working out any better for getting lower numbers. Just so you're aware, I see that with my own eyeballs now. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so if I pause right there for a moment, because that would take us then to, after route, we did some melee. Actually, that was just all failing the route. There is no melee. That was just failing the routes. Okay, then we would check melee, and then we're going to do recovery. Okay, so just a quick observation. I think I am pushing quicker this time than I did before, and maybe it was bad to put the 2 really good German defenders here because that's where all the initial firepower. My thought initially would be put the stronger German units there because they would do a better job of surviving. That was wrong. Maybe I should have put both of those veteran defenders like on a flank, and then made the Americans come towards them. I thought they would kind of do that here, but clearly that was not the case. So again, I may have tactically flubbed it up. All right, I'm gonna stop the video. We're gonna clear things up and come back and start turn 2. With the start of turn 2, we get to decide what the Americans want to do. They would love to continue to push and clear out, right? There's only 4 left. Yeah, this is going to be, I think, another roll for the Americans here. Let's start with the weapon team. That seems to be the money shot right there. So they're going to go ahead and fire, try to lay down some suppressione on that guy. So again, we have 8 firepower. We're well within their range of 14. They are in a wooden building, so that would bring their firepower down to a 7. So we need to roll really, really low if we want to reduce and suppress. And we don't roll really, really low. In fact, we roll really, really high. If I was using command points, that's where I would say, command point will re-roll, but we're not doing command points. So we're going to then have the rifle unit attempt. So they're going to be hitting on a 5 because they're starting at 6 -1 for the wood building. So they're hitting on a 5. And they roll a 1. Okay, so very cool. That is 3 plus 1 is 4. under the modified firepower of 5 that they need to hit. So 1 is amazing, and that will flip them for damage reduction and fully suppress. Great. So the used marker will now just go on that whole stack. Way to go, Airborne. Okay, I'm just really thinking we're Germans this time around. It's more of a slaughter this time around. Now, what I then want to do, because that's 2, and I can do 5, so I'm going to do these 2 guys are going to put a little suppression on him. That way we can just hopefully just walk right in. Just boop, go to the house, clear house to house. That's the hope. So we're going to start, first we need to roll a 9 or less to see if they activate. So we'll just start with the guy on top. Is a 7. Now his firepower is 6, and subtract 1 for the wood building, so they'll hit on a 5. And they roll a 10. That's a failure. Now before I put the used marker, I'm just going to check for the guy here. That way I can just mark the stack. 9 to activate. Activates. Hitting on a 5 because it's a firepower 6 minus 1 because of the wood building. And they score 7. Alright, so they both fail to secure some defensive fire. Now, coming to think of it, probably not necessary, because if I go here, they can't hit. I guess I was just going to start peppering them up, but anyway, he moved here. Now he's going to check for final opportunity fire and gets a 5. And they're going to roll in, and his buddy does not get to op fire in there because there are friendly units there. Okay, so that is all the Americans. Boop. And Germans. So the German player is going to return fire into the woods, and the woods, I forgot, I think they're only 1 defense, so it's their firepower minus 1 for the woods. That's a 3. So they're going to hit on a 3. And they roll a 2. And again, that's great. Just move that for a second. That does suppress both, but they can't press that advantage at all because his buddy's about to die. So good effort, good effort. That's 1 German unit, and I got to do 3. So that means these 2 are going to activate even if they didn't want to. He's going to shoot straight across. Boom, because they're in the open. Now they're not moving, so there's no defensive bonus. They're just out in the open. So they're going to roll a 4. They roll a 7. And I believe that guy is clearly able to see them. Yes. And again, hitting on a 4. And they roll a 1. But sadly, their first number is 4 plus 1 is 5, and that goes past their their firepower that they need to hit. So they will get marked with suppression. But again, there's not enough Germans left to fully take advantage of that. So I'm going to play this out to the end just because I like the game. And I really thought I set it up better this time for the German player. But I clearly should have put maybe the second line units here. And they probably would have done a much better job of defending the flank. But then I think the flank still would have collapsed and we would have come up. Alright, but anyway, that's all of the German activations. So all that's left are Americans. The Americans get up to 5, so that will be everybody that's remaining. Oh wait, yeah, because it's not melee yet. We got to do all the normal stuff, and then we'll check for route and then melee. So they're going to stay. Okay, and they're not suppressed, so they could do whatever they want. They could final fire, whatever, you name it, they could do it. So what he's going to do is attempt to suppress fire there. but he's got to roll a 6 or left if he wants to activate. He rolls a 3. Okay, so his firepower is 6. Subtract 1 for the wood building. They're going to hit on a 5. Rolls a 2. Okay, they're hitting on a 5. So 2 plus 3 is 5. So, you know, it makes me think that they get their first level of wound, and they are fully suppressed. We got some very different dice rolling results this time around. That is for sure. And I'll put your used back on you. So now this American unit is going to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2. They're going to check for final opportunity fire. I will say this. That is one thing I really do appreciate about this game over some other ones. Even though this unit is done, there is still a chance that they can defend themselves from people rushing them. However, being fully suppressed, it's a very slim chance that they're going to take any kind of shot in defense. And they roll a 7, so they don't. But I like the fact that it's there. And I like the fact that it makes you start thinking about suppression. So you find them, fix them, flank them, right? That is a very cool. I love seeing that mechanic here. So we're suppressing them to move up, because if you don't suppress them and you move up, they have free will to shoot at you, because they would have maximum morale. They wouldn't be suppressed. So I'm really digging that. And I like having to think that out, like, okay, which of my units are going to suppress and then which ones are going to move up. So that's like built-in cover fire. Yeah, it's very cool to see. And one day when I know the rules well, it will be even more exciting. Okay, so they moved up, and now they're going to move in, and they're good. I mean, they could stop and they could opportunity fire, but routing in melee is so much more satisfying. Get in there, boys. Okay. Well, now you all have some shots to do here, because we got to start suppressing here now. So you're going to shoot straight across. Got it. So that is -1 for the wood building. So you're hitting on a 5. And you roll a 5. So that's 1 level of suppression. That's not that big of a deal, though. You know, the 1 level of suppression is fine if you have some units ready to back it up somehow. I kind of don't. I'm going to move this person up, and if I can move them in here, let me see if they can shoot at that building. No, there's stuff in the way. So what I'm going to do is go 1, 2, and we're going to assault fire. So I'm going to start with a 5, -1 for the wood building. So I'm going to be a 4. I roll a 2. Alright, now they are fully suppressed. So you might be saying, okay, what's the big deal about that now? Because suppression comes off. Well, they're going to get 1 level of suppression back. So that means they're going to go from red to yellow. That means I'm going to have an easier time fully suppressing them on this flank when we start to push towards that side of the buildings. Cool. Alright, let's check for routing, because now everybody's been activated in some way. My American units check for routing first. I have no American units that are currently suppressed in a hex with somebody. So they're in there, but they're not suppressed. So he's in here, but he's got 10 morale. They got 10 morale. So they're unwavered. They're like, I got this. Then the German player is going to check. So I'm just going to temporarily move him out of the way. And he's got to roll a 1 if he wants to stay in the fight. So we'll check here first. And they fail. So these guys surrender or something like that, because they just get the bullets are poured on. And I think if you look at it as they're surrendering, because we didn't melee, But here they are just under intense firepower, and a bunch of American paratroopers just pop in and they're like, yeah, America, and they just surrender. Like, I could see that. This is forming narrative for me that I think is very interesting to see unfold. Now the Germans up here, same thing. Massive amounts of firepower poured into them, and then a whole bunch of screaming eagles. Well, who were these? I don't think they're the screaming eagles, but all of a sudden, crazed men come charging at them, and they say, not today, you can have us. Yeah. So just a quick story aside. I forget what I was watching, but it was one of those really well done documentaries about World War II, and I think it was on Netflix, so you know that they put out quality. I don't know if that sounded sarcastic enough for you, but I thought it was pretty well. World War II, I think it's the World War II in Color series that they've got on there, and they were talking about the final months, if you will, of the war, and I think this was during like their Battle of the Bulge. So this is a little bit past here, but I can imagine similar things happening. They were talking to one of the German survivors of the Battle of the Bulge, and he said that when his unit finally surrendered, there was a huge difference between the Americans and the Germans, because near the end of the war, as the supply chain for Germany collapsed and, you know, food wasn't hitting them as much, you know, I'm sure there were still some well-fed German soldiers someplace, but a lot of the folks that were on the front line fighting, he said, compared to the Americans, they looked horrible. Their clothes were in tatters. They weren't shaved. They were shrinking because they didn't have enough food. They just looked famished and like ghosts. And compared to the Americans, who were like well shaved, and they had their clothes were pressed, and their boots looked good, and they looked well fed, and they were tall. And it was like, you know, I never really thought of that, where near the end, when they talk about second line units and things like that, the German army, very, very well trained. They fought hard, but I can only imagine how hard life in general was, even when they weren't fighting, what they had to do just to survive. And that has nothing to do with the game, just a thought that came to my mind. And let's zoom back in. Now, we're checking the route. Now, so here we have a situation where he's adjacent to, when they're adjacent to an enemy unit that is not in melee, okay? So this is, so this would be my only thing. I think I don't have to check for them, because at the start of the route phase for the German player, this unit was in melee. So I think he gets by okay. Yep, because remember I said, and I'm trying to remember that, a change in the melee, or, you know, a change in the routing situation doesn't create new. You look at a snapshot of the picture at the time. So I think he's going to be fine. Alright, that's the rule I'm going with, and I'm sticking to it. I'm going to pause you for just a moment, and I'll be back with a clean board, and we'll hit turn 3. Starting turn 3, what we'll do is we'll focus on this flank. This would be the northern flank, I guess. So we'll start up here. And that does leave us with some adjacent firing happening. I'm going to go ahead and open up with this American unit here. Ooh, I'll have to do both, because otherwise he's going to be set up. He is adjacent, and he is in a building, but that's only -1 firepower. So we're going to start with him first. I thought I would just do all this, but yeah, I've only got 2 German units, so they're leaving themselves kind of vulnerable. Yeah, that's wood building. All right, so let's start here, and let's look at some of the modifiers. It is -1 for the wood building, and just being adjacent is +3. And that's it. Nobody's moving. It's not final op fire, it's not orchards or concealment or anything like that. So So we go -1 for the wood building, that brings me down to 5, +3 for being adjacent, that should make that an 8. So what do we get? We roll a 5. Well, check this out. 5 plus 3 now equals my modified 8 firepower, so that would flip, and fully suppress. And it marks you used. Bloop. Then down here we're going to do the same thing. So it's 6 minus 1 for the building, puts it at a 5, plus 3 for being adjacent, should be an 8. And they roll a 2. Oof. But, oh, I just flipped it over. They had a 2, but if I add the 7, that would make it 9. So it's not enough to eliminate the unit outright. But they do get 1 reduction and fully suppressed. And then this one gets marked used. Then we are going to move up 1, 2, and the German unit is going to check for final opportunity fire. But they got to roll a 1 if they want to act. They rolled an 8. So the American unit rolls in, and we're going to put it. I'll just leave. They're used. I guess I mean, I'll just put it there. They're used. They're not going anywhere. I think they have to make a morale check to leave, but like why? Okay, so that's 3 Americans. I could do 5. So yeah, this guy will move up. 1, 2, 3. And they're going to check for final opportunity fire. Need a 1 if they want to activate to do something about it. They roll 2. So close. But that's why that full suppression is like golden when you can get it. You don't have to kill people. You just got to suppress them. And then you go kill them. Alright, we'll put a used on you. So what is that now? 1, 2, that's 4. Weapon team, we got airborne. I think we'll be okay. You know what? Why don't we do this? 1, 2. Move a couple American units in there. That way, if I gotta take casualties, I can lose a. I don't know, lose one of them. Okay, fine. We're good. That's fine. Then the German player. Now I could be wrong. But I think the German player could try to retreat out of there and run. But again, they'd have to roll 1s to activate because they're not used. The Americans are used who charged in there. And that would delay the game a little bit because I'd have to, chase them down. But eventually they would just retreat off the board. So let's try. So that German unit is going to try to retreat. Roll a 2 to activate. And then that one there, because they need 1s to activate. And that's an 8. Alright, so they're there. This could be the end. Then the final American units are going to activate. So he's going to go 1, 2 to cross the hedge into the open. 3, yeah, so 1, 2, 3, 4. He does not have enough movement to get in to support his buddy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now but he moved adjacent, so that's final opportunity fire, chance. So they got to roll a 1. He rolls a 1. Oh, but he can't shoot out of the hex. I forgot about that. So I think I checked that here, but I had to remember they're in a hex set up for melee. You cannot fire out of a unit if you have enemy units in the hex with you, because your attention is focused on the people in the building with you and not who's coming up. So that may have been a mistake I made earlier, but I just thought of that just now. As cool as that would have been, it doesn't help. So 1, 2, 3, 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we'll put 2 squads in here. Alright, that's everybody. Then we go to check for route. I do have this one here. So that American unit could possibly route out if I roll a 10. So let's roll that first. I have rolled 10s before. I roll an 8. Tried to get there, but passed. All the Americans are good. Now we're going to check for the Germans to see if they surrender or if they fight on. So he's got to roll a 1. He rolls a 2. They're so close. So close, but he does surrender. And then we'll check here. Same deal. Got to roll a 1 if you want to play. Got to be this tall to ride this ride, and they get nope. They say nope. And that's where it was taking me back to that World War II story. Can only imagine that these folks said, you know what? I ain't dying for nobody today. And then they're probably lining up and they're captured, you know, off to the side, getting cigarettes, getting some drinks, some food, probably the best food they've had in a while. And they're looking at all the, you know, the shaven Americans and all that stuff, and they're in their clothes. They're probably thinking, you know what? This probably was the best way to end the war. I'm alive and I'm being fed and I'm going home and this is done. And with that, I think we're ready to go home too. We're at the end. So just as far as a recap of the game, you know, hopefully I caught some of the rules a little bit better this time. That flowed really good. And if I got it wrong, you know what? It was fun for me. At least I'm making my own house rules. We'll call it that. They're not mistakes, guys. They're house rules. But please feel free to point out what the actual rule should be. I know calling it a house rule is kind of a crappy way out of saying I made a mistake. But that being said, I think I did catch a few of them, and it made the game play a little more believable in what should happen. I do like the fact that there is like a route phase before the melee. Now, when you fully suppress, see again, I think that's such a fantastic mechanic built in. It makes the units feel like they have a little more resilience to them. I'm thinking of like Lock and Load, for example. A great game. But my only complaint is in the basic rules, if you have a unit that's shaken and you move somebody in, you automatically capture that unit. Here, we got a chance. We got a chance to fight. It might not be good. We got to make that morale check, but there's a chance you might stay and fight, you know, depending on your tenacity and your morale. And I like that a lot. I like the final opportunity fire. I really appreciate the chance that you can, you know, might be used, might be fully suppressed, and you got people coming up. And it's always that's a thing where I've never played Advanced Squad Leader. Never have I. And I see it a little bit with just about any tactical game where you have to mark units as used kind of a deal. And you start moving people up. So you tend to start moving one unit up, just one sacrificial unit up to try and draw some kind of defensive fire or opportunity fire to get them marked as used. Then you can just move all the other people up because they can't do anything. They just have to sit and watch as all these people come up. But I really, really like the fact that even if I can't shoot at them this many hexes out, but as soon as they get adjacent to you, there's a chance that those folks might shoot at you. And I love that. So there's a lot of little things here I like about this game as I start playing again that I'm like, yeah, I really did like that. And even though it didn't quite go in the way of the German player this time, it still just re-emphasizes those mechanics, and that's why I really do enjoy this. And you know, we'll probably play scenario 3, and again, like I said, because I felt coming in here better with the rules, but that means when I get comfortable, I probably have overlooked some glaring things. So please feel free to point out the mistakes I did. I don't mind learning from that because I do plan on playing more. And of course, if I'm going to play games for you all, don't take these as tutorials, obviously, But if I'm going to play games, I want people who know the rules well to enjoy at least help me in my learning. But I want you to be able to watch this and enjoy it too, because sometimes I read comments for other games and playthroughs, and people will leave a comment and they'll say, like, their comment is, pretty much, I'm thumbs downing this because you clearly don't know what you're doing, and I cringed at every move you made because you were making this mistake. It was just horrible to watch. Valid. Totally, you're allowed to feel that way. What would make that more valid for me and other people watching is you say, but do this next time and you should be on point. So I don't mind. You can hate my video all you want, downvote it because I don't know how to play. Totally cool. But on your way out, just leave a, hey, check this page for this rule, and we'll be golden, because I do truly want to learn. And since I play so many games, I get the rules jumbled together quite often. But I would like to play more of this one, and so I want to get it right for all of you. Okay, that's enough for me. So thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate you watching. I've got some vacation time coming up. Origins Online has been canceled, so I can focus all my time here at this table playing games when I would otherwise be occupied with Origins Online. So hopefully you'll get some more games out of me next week. Alright everybody, thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye!